I'm sorry. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting, Thursday, July 11th. This is a regular meeting. First, we will do roll call. I'll start with myself, Robin Bates Mason here.
John Fiesak here.
And Silvio here.
Okay, so right now, Linda Andros, she had emailed not coming, and we're just waiting for Susan. Approve the regular minutes of June 13th. Do we want to wait for Susan? Okay, so let's push that. I believe she's coming till when she gets here. So next on the agenda, we have public comment. Do we have anyone here who'd like to make public comment? Okay. So just give your full name and your street address.
Is that on there? Hi, my name is Joan Gazzetti, 205 Main Street in New Canaan. And I just came to speak, well, because I'm interested in the Conservation Commission, but also to comment about Bristow. And I just wanted to share my thanks and appreciation for all the preparations for the birthday party. And especially the adding of the lower level access path that will facilitate people with mobility issues and also people with strollers to better access the sanctuary, because it's makes a huge difference to us. My husband has Alzheimer's and mobility issues, and we love to go to Bristow. We go all the time. So, and I just really looking forward to the celebration, and also actually to the day after the celebration, when I think that the sanctuary can return to its sanctuary, refuge, peaceful status. So which is why we go for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
No other public comments. I don't think there's anyone on Zoom. Okay, so next we have Speaker Richard Crockin. He's Douglas Road resident to discuss his proposed undergrounding of utility wires. So we have you for about 10-15 minutes. Do you want to share your presentation?
Yes, please.
I have your co-host. Your
Speaker. There you go.
All right.
Here's the guy. Rick, you gotta touch the mic.
So Chris, can you show him the mic? Yeah.
All right. So greetings to the commission, and thank you so much for allowing me to talk to you about my little project for New Canaan. And what I've been working on for some time now is some thoughts on how to make our utilities more resilient, more safe, and also more attractive in a taxpayer responsible way. And let's get right into it and say, focusing for a moment on the electric grid. How is our electric grid performed in storms? And I want to point out, I've got two storms here, Isaias and Sandy. They were originally hurricanes, but by the time they reached us in New Canaan, they were just tropical storms. And yet, if you look at the performance in the first day, we had like 70 to 90% of the residents without power. Day 3 and 5, between 55 and 60%. And even by 6 and 7, we have a quarter of the town still without power. So I'll leave that to you to form your own opinion on whether that's a satisfactory performance. What I'm proposing is a modest, long-term resiliency goal for our utilities. And what I'm proposing is that using Isaias and Sandy as models, that we target in the future that if we have a comparable storm, no more than 50% of the residents go without power on day 1, and that no New Canaan resident is without power for more than 4 or 5 days. And I'm branding this, I'm calling this a utility bill of rights for our New Canaan residents. And everyone in this room who's been a New Canaan resident for a long time knows what happens when we're without power for a long periods of time. So I won't go over that. I'm going to focus primarily on what's changed in the last few years since perhaps people have had discussions in the town about this kind of thing. And one thing that's changed is that increasingly this would be a transport issue for people who are charging their cars at home. Another aspect of this that I don't think probably has been included in the discussions in the past has been the safety aspect of this. I met with Russ Kimes, who's our director of emergency services, and he informed me that when power lines go down, Tiger's team can't even send his teams to remove the limbs. Emergency services, fire and police can't go down that road until Eversource turns off the power. And that can take 24 to 48 hours. So in the meantime, that creates a risk for our residents. I would also note that we did have a policeman die in 1991 from a downed power line. And many people in our town are blessed with generators, and I'm happy for them. But not everyone does. And even for some who do, it really powers just the minimum. And for some vulnerable populations in New Canaan, extensive power outages is a safety issue. And there's also been the possibility of fires, although that's not a big issue traditionally for our town. I also want to talk about the business community. And in the past, in the debates about this, we've thought about our downtown retail, how they can't process credit cards and things like that. So they're out of business maybe for a few days. But our economy has changed in New Canaan over the last 5 years. And I think that needs to inform our debate. Actually, our biggest business right now is our remote worker community. And they've really, I think, been the driving force behind an increase in property values that, New Canaan really had flat to declining property values before, the COVID pandemic. When remote work really came in, our property values and our community has really had a resurgence. It's remote workers that are driving that. And if we don't cater to the needs of the remote worker communities, which is our biggest part of our economy right now, we're going to be putting ourselves at a disadvantage versus other towns, potentially. And our remote workers need reliable utilities. I also think that the leadership in the town needs to think about what I call black swan events. So Sandy and Isaias were both tropical storms by the time they reached us, but it's not impossible that we have a major storm here, which is categorized by National Weather Service as a Category 3 hurricane or higher. And in fact, in 1938, there was a storm that hit Eastern Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, killed 560 people, destroyed almost 9,000 buildings. Now, the National Weather Service did a presentation to Russ Kimes last year and says that a Category 3 hurricane hits New England every 70 years. So you do the math from 1938 to now, we're statistically due for a major hurricane. And the National Weather Service estimates that 60 times, I'm going to say that again, 60, not 6, 60 times more wires would come down in a Category 3 storm versus a tropical storm. So, how do we deal with this as leaders? Something that is very, very rare, but when it happens is extremely catastrophic. And I think of places like Paradise in California, where if they just had a little bit of preparation for more thinking about more exit roads for the town, maybe some of those 85 deaths could have been avoided. Or New York City, if they just invested some money to protect the tunnels, they would have avoided $1 billion to replace some of these tunnels or fix the tunnels. Or maybe Lahaina in Hawaii, where we had many people die. If they had just done a little bit of preparation, the worst of it could have been avoided. And I think that's, in my perspective, to think about these black swan events. Think about what we could do to avoid the worst of it. And that would be a reasonable expenditure. You wouldn't want to go beyond that because you don't want to spend too much money on rare events. I would note that a Category 5 hurricane just missed New England last year, landed in Nova Scotia. I would also note that Hurricane Sandy had landfall in New Jersey, so we're sort of bracketed here. You can see that what happened in 1938 is not impossible. For some people, and I presume probably for people in this room, there's an aesthetic aspect as well to our utilities being above ground. So this is just South Avenue versus Hoyt Farms. So the solution that I'm proposing is to selectively put utilities underground. And I'm putting the emphasis on selectively. And I'm proposing that we manage costs through what I'm calling intelligent resilience. And what I'm proposing is that we use tropical storms Isaias and Sandy as a model and say, okay, in those storms, what wire took out the most homes? Okay, that would be priority 1. What wire took down the second most homes? That would be priority 2. And you just work your way down. And that way you're not wasting money on wires that don't impact that many people. And also limiting it to what your long-term strategic goal is. So you create a plan that says, based on this model, I'll get to my 4 or 5 days, 20 years from now, that level of resilience by starting with the most impactful, second most, third most, until I've reached that point, and then I stop. So it's targeted, but also limited. There's also operational choices. So you'll hear correctly that putting wires under roads and putting transformers in vaults under roads is very expensive, but you don't need to do that. You can put the wires alongside the roads, and that's much less expensive, and you can put the transformers on pads above ground, which is what we have in Hoyt Farm. Key to this, of course, is going to be the funding. If it was for free, everybody would want it. And what I'm proposing is a public-private partnership to get this done in a way that's taxpayer acceptable. And equally importantly, this needs to be a very long-term thing. So it's like you say, I want to buy that house. Well, I can't afford it with cash, but I can certainly buy it over 30 years if I got a mortgage. And that's the way to think about building resiliency for New Canaan. So what I'm proposing is that we set up a not-for-profit 501c3 resilient, safe and beautiful utilities of New Canaan. I need some help from marketing on that one, to raise money, and that would be a source of funding. Town, for this to get done, the town would have to play some role. I don't think I can get it all done through private financing. Utilities might be willing to contribute some, and there might be some state and federal resiliency grants that could be available as well. On the right here is a map of the tree trimming that is planned by Eversource. And in red are what Eversource considers to be its backbone wires. So they impact the most customers. So what I would say is, as we're prioritizing, okay, this wire is the most impactful in terms of past storms, second most, third most, we give this chart to Russ Kimes and say, Russ, tell us which of these wires also really play a role for you in making resilient corridors out to the far reaches of New Canaan from a safety and public service perspective. And that way you might, Russ Kimes might move up some of the priority of some of the wires. But in doing this, we're achieving 2 goals. One is building resiliency for the utilities and also building resilient corridors for emergency vehicles. So one of the things I like to just remind people is that this is not a radical idea. We did this in our downtown in the 1950s. And I'll also tell you that me and 3 of my neighbors did it on Douglas Road. We happened to finance it 100% with private money. But that tells me a few things, that we actually did this for $16,000 a house by putting the wires alongside the road and pads above the ground. So it's doable. So what I'm recommending is we do a proof of concept to confirm the costs, the funding, and the community support, as well as to limit financial risk. And I'm recommending South Avenue primarily as the proof of concept. I reckon, based on my cost for the 4 homes that me and my neighbors did, be about 1.6 million. One of the things that's probably of interest to this committee is some of the aesthetic impacts. And on South Avenue, if you go alongside the road with utilities, you only need about 3 feet for the utilities to get in. And fortunately, for most of South Avenue, the sidewalks are about 8 feet away. So you could put these wires underground without necessarily having to impact most of the sidewalks. This initiative would also have to be coordinated with any tree planting plans, which is probably something this committee would have to do. So when a long-term plan is developed, would have to be coordinated with some sort of tree planting plan. In terms of funding, the projects with the highest public benefit in terms of resilience for utilities and safety corridors would probably receive the highest amount of public funding. But I can imagine that there would be local projects that would be 100% financed by local people, just like me and my neighbors did. Part of the affordability of this is going to be doing it over a long period of time. And it's been suggested that we could do this in a very predictable way through a sinking fund like we have for our highways. So if we could only afford $400,000 per year, let's create a sinking fund and put that in there. And then when we've got enough money from the public funds together with the money raised privately to do the next wire, then you do it. And then you just keep on that pace. And that way the cost is predictable and manageable. There are, I think, many financial winners from this project. We had, as everyone knows, every 5 years we reassess all the property values in town. And it was a natural experiment because to my knowledge, since 5 years, me and my neighbors are the only people who put their wires underground. So we could compare how much our property values increased versus all of New Canaan. And interestingly, our 4 houses increased in property value 38% versus total New Canaan only 24%. Now, as the statisticians among you would say, that's a very small sample size, but it's still interesting that our 4 homes had a 14% higher property increase than the town as a whole. And what I would say is the 4 houses increased, that 14% equated to about $780,000, which was a multiple of the $65,000 that we paid to have the wires put underground for our 4 houses. So you could see it was, for us, it was a money winner. Interestingly, this actually for the town should be a money winner as well. If I use the economics for our town, it was about, or for our little project, there were about $16,000 per house. And if the town paid half of that, that'd be $8,000. If the property value, let's say on a South Avenue house increased just 3.5%, that would give an extra $1,000 of property tax to the town every year, which gives the town an 8-year payback on that $8,000 that they paid. So that's a pretty good payback. And if you extend it out into the future, that's actually an 11% rate of return. So that's pretty good for the town. It's an open question whether Eversource would have maintenance savings. Certainly they'd have less tree trimming. Whether Hoyt Farm has a lower rate of maintenance costs than the rest of the town is an open question. We haven't gotten that data yet. So one question I get is, how does the Lost District benefit from this versus other parts? And actually, I think they probably stand the most to benefit from this. When you think of the lost district, they lose power for two reasons. One is a main line goes down and they get affected by that like everybody else. And then the other one is a local, when their local streets goes down. Well, if the main lines, fewer of those go down, they have fewer outages because of that. And if the main lines are not going down, Eversource gets to the smaller ones sooner. So they get that benefit. And the resilient corridors primarily benefit those people who are currently farther away and would be most likely blocked by tree limbs. So in summary, what I've been proposing to the town is a proof of concept project, burying the wires on South Avenue, partially funded by private money. If that's successful, a longer term strategy for the town would be developed. And what I'm proposing as a possible long-term goal is that no New Canaan resident be without power for more than 4 or 5 days, that we manage costs by targeting only the most impactful wires, spreading it out over 20 years, and partially funded by a not-for-profit. The benefits by protecting utilities from tree limbs, reduce the amount and length of utility outages, that's electricity, internet, for our residents and for those versus those seen in tropical storms, Sandy and Isaias. Safety in terms of more resilient emergency service routes out to the far reaches of town. Some sort of reasonable step towards a disaster mitigation like we had for a 1938 type event. Enhance New Canaan as a community of choice for remote workers. Town being more attractive through less wires and increasing property values. So that's that. I'll stop the sharing here. And then I'll leave it to you whether you want to open that up for questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Have you presented to the utility commission?
Yes,
That's key.
yes.
Okay.
And was Douglas Road a private road or a public?
Public road.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the fundraising. Who would do the fundraising piece of this?
So, you know, this town has been good to me and I'm willing to play a role in doing that. I would certainly aim to leverage the wisdom in the town. So for instance, the library raised 40 million. So I'd want to speak to town leadership and people in charitable organizations. But as I've sort of put together sort of a, you know, back of my envelope, how I think things could work. If I take South Avenue as an example, there's about 100 houses or residences on there, I think. For various reasons, probably half of them couldn't or wouldn't participate. So if I got 50, and let's say I got on average 10,000 from each of those, that'd be $500,000 right there. And then I'd have to raise another, I'm reckoning 300,000 through town benevolent people. I'd be willing to give some of my personal money towards that. I'm sure there are others, but it's an open question. That's one of the things, that's the reason you do a proof of concept, is to verify that the money is there on the private side.
Great. If I could just add a comment too. Certainly the so-called black swan events, like we've lived through those. And I think, you know, for a lot of the town, there's no cell service in your home without Wi-Fi boosters and you need power for that. So I would add that to a benefit. But, you know, a lot of the benefits are outside the purview of this commission. But I think what's exciting about it, about your concept, is the potential for rethinking how our roads are used by pedestrians and people on bikes in this town. So that one particular slide that shows the red backbone roads, I'm willing to bet those are also the roads that would create a nice network of bike lanes where you could sort of create, you know, an actual bike path for a residents, which would be huge benefit. And so your presentation made me think about the Jeff Speck visit, and that there were lots of exciting ideas there around smart streets, making the town more walkable and friendly for cyclists. So if there is money there for a project like this, I think where we might come in is this working in the overlap. Like if you're going to dig up the side of the road, where can we do native plantings, tree planting, bike lanes, making it more safe for pedestrians. So that's where I think we might come into this.
It's, you know, it's outside the scope of kind of what I've been thinking about, but I do think there's a potential, when you particularly think of South Avenue, of reimagining the relationship of Waveney to the town center. It's almost like you could start to think of it as almost a giant park, all the way from the town, all the way to Waveney. I think there's a potential for some very creative thinking along there if you got rid of the wires. But that's kind of outside of my scope.
Yeah, great. And are you going to be presenting again to the Utilities Commission? Going back?
I've been asked to participate in a discussion, but I don't have a plan right now to participate, to present again. What needs to happen next is there needs to be a study done to confirm the actual costs of doing South Avenue. And Tiger, any progress on that, or?
I spoke to the first selectman about it, and then we need to bring that forward a little bit to try to figure out who would do that study. And then the overall cost of it, you know, at that point to try to determine, do a proposed scope of work, if you will, and then go out and find a consultant to help us do that work. But I've spoken to her preliminarily about it, and we're, you know, you and I have to sit and figure out a scope of work and then go from there.
I'm thinking that it would be reasonable to have this if it's going to happen in the 2025 fiscal budget. So right now, extrapolating to South Avenue from the four houses on Douglas Road is I just don't know how reliable that is. So this study is important, and getting the study done in time to fit into that time frame, into the process for the fiscal 25 budget is important. If we're waiting until the 2026 fiscal budget, then, well, that's a long time to be waiting and loss of momentum. So the real next steps are probably the most important steps on the critical path from my perspective is not so much Utilities Commission, it's just getting the study done. So we can, because if the number is what I say it is, then I can start really talking to people and saying, okay, can we raise this money? Is there town money? You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But without that, I'm reluctant to talk to anybody in a serious way.
Yeah.
Without knowing hard costs.
All right. Well, thank you.
Can I just say thanks for all the work you've done on this and for doing the 4 homes, right? I mean, that's tremendous. And your neighbors who didn't participate equally benefit as well. So just remind them of that. Do you have a sense that for whatever reason that something like South Avenue that has presumably either higher voltage or higher amperage or kind of a more, you know, a robust, you know, kind of throughput of electricity, is that meaningfully more expensive than doing a residential?
Well, that's really what needs to be confirmed.
Yeah, okay.
It's also state road, which has extra regulatory hurdles. But it's these large roads that are probably the most interesting from a resilience perspective and for resilient corridors.
I wonder if a study might be helpful to do it on a state road and then on a non-state road to see if there's a material difference in cost associated with this. As a thought.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, that's it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
presenting. Thank you.
Guys.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a quick update from Mickey Porta.
And I love that presentation, Rick, and that's a really good segue because the whole time I'm listening to you and you were kind enough to do this for our Nature and Environment Coalition. I'm thinking this is a climate conversation where we're actually not talking about climate change, but we are talking about resilience. We're talking about remote working. We're talking about safety. We're talking about the things that people really care about and can really connect on and not be polarized or divided about. So what I'm here to talk about is about a climate scientist named Katharine Hayhoe, who will be coming to New Canaan Library in October as our inaugural Oldham Nature and Environment lecture speaker. So I don't know, maybe most of you knew Lisa Oldham, our former director, who was very interested in sustainability, went long in our building. Our building has a lot of sustainable thinking invested in it. And when Lisa left, someone or a few people endowed a lecture in her name. And Lisa's biggest wish was to see if we could get Katharine Hayhoe, and we did. So she's one of the world's leading climate scientists, but her real superpower is communications. She's a scientist who knows how to communicate with people in a very ordinary, non-threatening way. And her whole thing is that every conversation is a climate conversation. It just depends how you talk to people about it. So how to connect over the things you care about, whether that's remote working, whether it's my property values, whether it's sports, whether it's faith, whether it's food. You know, find a way to connect and focus on solutions, which you've just, you know, data, so data-driven stuff, but also solutions. You know, how can we make our lives materially better and not engage in these political discussions or even, you know, talking about what's fact, what's not fact. It's happening. Things are happening and we're all affected by it. So, I'm just going to pass these around. This is going to be redundant for some of you because I think you could pass that to Tiger and you get one. I'm sorry, I don't have enough.
No,
Okay, yeah, because Chris has one from last time. So this is just a little info sheet about who she is. She's a big person, so our thinking was while we have her in town, we really wanted to do two things. One, you know, in addition to the keynote lecture, one was we wanted her to meet with youth, with sustainability-minded youth. So she agreed to come in early and meet with high school kids who have an interest in sustainability to talk about, you know, their agendas and what their goals are and have kind of her input on how to get there from here. And then after that, we were going to have like, you know, the usual kind of VIP meet and greet with Dr. Hayhoe, but we thought that rather than just make that like a donor event or something like that, to really kind of target the sustainability organizations or other organizations that have an interest in this, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's, you know, the Utilities Commission, representatives of those groups who want to get in front of her and meet her and just kind of come and pick her brain and have an informal conversation. And we were thinking that September would be a good time to sit down with those partners to kind of like create an outline, because we don't have very long, like a cocktail hour is what, 45 minutes, you know, but to come in and just say, hey, this is New Canaan. This is who we are in New Canaan. We know who you are. We know what you do. We're interested in that. And we have these questions. Or this is what's happening on the ground in New Canaan. Can you give us some advice about X, Y, and Z? So I'm here to talk to the commission, to bring the commission in and anyone else as a partner, potentially to sit down with us in September and identify those people who want to be in the room, for whom it could be valuable to be in the room, and just kind of meet her. So.
Okay, so for the commission to compile a list of people that we think,
Yeah, I mean, in
or
addition.
the
I-
library will be doing that.
No, I mean, for us, like I made this announcement at the Nature and Environment Coalition, and the commission is represented in that group. But if you have other ideas, like utilities is not,
Okay.
The chamber is not. But these are all issues. This is not like climate change or, environment anymore. This is like everything. This literally affects like, if you care about how many days of school your kids are missing from power outages or from storms. It used to be like in the fall, like back to school time, great. Now I feel like every fall there's some kind of weird weather event in New Canaan that threatens to, do you remember? Like, it's usually like in September, a part of the town doesn't have power, but a part of it does. So do the kids go to school? Do they, it can just be anything. And Katharine Hayhoe is so broad in the way that she communicates about climate that I think that this could really be like a climate change lecture that's really not about climate change, but that is more about solutions for what is happening now and how to engage constructively with people across political divides, across socioeconomic divides, across the town and outside town divide, because some people in the Lost District might not really have the same concerns as people right in the heart of town. But she's a bridge builder. She's a connector. And a really effective communicator. And we intentionally invited her in October because the election is coming in November. And we also thought, how nice to have someone who has a kind of bridge building energy about her at that time, not knowing what will be. Maybe it'll be fine. Maybe the energy here will be fine. But again, her message and her method are very constructive.
Okay. So we could put it on our September, we don't meet in August, but our September agenda to discuss anyone else we think that we should present to the library.
Or if you have an idea, we'll probably schedule a meeting in September for who wants to be included in that VIP. We don't want it to be 100 people because that kind of, then how much contact do you really have with her in
Right.
an hour or 45 minutes? So to really target like who wants to be in that room. And we'll probably have that meeting sometime in September to get our stories straight. So just to think about it now, and it doesn't have to be a formal list that you have to present. Just email me and say, Chris will say, I want to be in the room because I can wear my Land Trust, Bristow Community Foundation hat,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Sure. Thank you. Okay. So next, moving along on the agenda. Thank you, Mickey. Tiger, the Bristow final phase work update. I did send pictures of Bristow to the commission just for a point of reference taken this morning. So do you want to, let's start on the flexi path or
I'll just walk you through the whole thing based on what
Okay.
you have on the agenda.
Yep.
So first off, thank you. We're nearing the end. So the FlexiPay path that leads from the Mead Park parking lot to the front entrance of Bristow, or the lower entrance and the upper entrance, is slated right now for FlexiPay to come in on July 22nd and complete that. So they'll take that whole area in. We were trying to do it during the summer when it was a little less active. Gannon did put in the lower pedestrian fence. You have a picture of that in there. Thank you. So now that pedestrian access way, because it was just a fence at that point in time, that pedestrian access way is open. So the FlexiPay will go to both entrances and then kind of make it a much nicer entrance into the park itself. As far as the parking lot goes, they are pouring their first set of sidewalk. Now they've framed out or graded out the parking lot itself, the pull-off area. The granite curb frontage is in, the granite curb in the back is in, and the sidewalk that is along the park itself, almost to the park property line, is being poured today. Then he's going to have the material for the parking lot delivered tomorrow, and he's going to start laying out that. That's going to be about a 3 to 4 day effort to put in all that pervious paver. And the thought was to get that portion of the park done. So God forbid we had a problem with the sidewalk leading past it, that wouldn't delay, the park itself will be done. So anyone for the celebration could come in and park, or anybody could utilize the park, and we can get out of the way as well. Because right now we're kind of in the middle there and people are saying, is the park open? And of course, the park is open. I had that question from a reporter the other day and I was like, the park's open, come use the park. Just happens that we're doing some work around the park. So he'll take care of that, and you'll see that develop as it unfolds. The grades changed a little bit in the area because of the sidewalks. Because of the curb line came up by 6 inches. So we had to put tree wells around all the trees that had been planted by the Exchange Club a couple of years ago. So, but those looked good, seemed to be viable. We did have to relocate one of them down to the end. But if you actually look at it, I don't think you can actually notice that anything is amiss, if you will. So that's all done. As far as the kiosks go, I talked to Keith Simpson and Bill Pollock 2 days ago about it. They're working with Chris on mapping. I'm going to get them the manufacturer of the actual frame, and we'll purchase the frames and then have them installed. They'll just work on the mapping to put in. We have similar maps at Irwin and at Waveney, so that the Conservancy put the one in at Waveney, and then the Garden Club put the one in at Irwin. But they're both they're well used. People use them all the time. So we'll have that. The goal is to have that done before the celebration as well, and I think we will. And then, excuse me, I've released Gannon on that one gate that we just talked about, the spring-loaded gates. And then there was some fence repair that he had to do. And then I just sent him an additional piece of fence repair that if you look at the park from 106, there was one tree that fell, like say behind the Grand Oak, there was one tree that fell that kind of damaged the line. A resident pointed it out to me the other day. So I had that.
What about the tree I sent you the picture of? Was that the one by the birdhouse
That I had
walk?
the tree, that one went to the tree warden to
Okay.
see whether or not, comes down to whether it's a hazard, it's not a hazard, is it habitat lying there, is it
Right.
gonna hurt anybody if it falls? So I
Yeah.
sent that to Bob. Bob's gonna take a look at that, the
Okay.
tree warden, take a look, and then if he deems it as a hazard, we'll have that removed. But so Gannon's working on that area. He actually has to be there to relocate a fence line for the sidewalk. So he's gonna be in that area, taking care of all that.
With so I saw that the new entrance from the baseball fields has that, it will,
Pedestrian gate.
yeah. But for the other gates, will Gannon be able to put in the spring loaded, and did that come out of the previous budget?
He'll be able to put it in the spring loaded. It did not.
Okay,
Because it's also coming down to the fact of when he's going to perform the work, right?
Okay.
So it comes down to, he'll be performing it in July, so that'll be a fiscal 25 budget expense.
Did the new gate go in with spring loading? Is that what you were just referring
it's,
to?
yeah, it's, I have a picture of it.
I saw the
actually.
picture, but I wasn't
I
able
don't
to
know.
tell.
I'm gonna have to ask him that question. It's a great question because
No, I've got a picture of I should have put in there.
It's not. No, it's
We'll
not.
we'll have them do that as well.
Right, great.
So that all of them will be. And then I did have, it's not on your list here, but
Yeah, it's not sprinkled, but it's,
I did ask Aladdin to come in and gild and actually repaint both gates so that the gilding is not a signage requirement from B and Z, according to Sarah, so we can make that decision. So I had have Aladdin come in to do that. The cost was very nominal. I think overall it was $650 to repaint and gild both gates.
okay.
So it's like $325 to do each. So I said to come in and do it because he asked, should I just repaint the gate? And I was like, yeah, why don't you spruce it up for September, and make it prettier. So, and that'll come out of this year's budget also, but
And the spring loaded gates, do we have an estimate on that?
it's $1,260 if memory serves.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And that will come out of this
Remember
budget,
that
okay.
Overall. And then as far as the gravel, I spoke to Peter Lonnie about doing the gravel for Cam's Meadow. And he's supposed to get us a price for
Okay.
that. I think he's just gonna do it, but he, you know, I've asked him to do it. He's focusing where he is, but I'll remind him that to take care of that while he's in the area. If he has, especially if he has any additional gravel, he can take care of it while
Okay.
he's right outside the gate, so. And then as far as a watering schedule, I did have the highway department go in and take care of the big oak.
Okay,
He's watering almost every day and he's full-time watering all the
Hanging
baskets and all
baskets,
the
yeah.
other plants. So it's a little bit difficult for us to get into that area on a more readily basis or, you know, scheduled basis. It's a little bit
So-
hard.
so in terms of in regards to the oak, how often is that getting watered?
It's once a week. That was what we were asked to do. We could try to do it more. Right now, it's a little bit hot, so we could ask them to come in.
When the native trees went in at Waveney Park, did they have the things that go around them that holds water in them?
Gator bag?
Yeah, gator
I don't
bag.
remember if they did.
If they did, they were never replenished, they were put on, filled, and then.
I don't think that they
Oh.
were. I think we just went out there every week and replanted and watered. I
Okay.
don't think we had the gators themselves. I can ask.
Is it possible to ask at least for twice a week, just for the oak till it establishes?
Walt can come down there. I need him to water the outside ones as well, the ones that the Exchange Club did. 'Cause they're
Okay.
looking a little wilted.
Yeah,
So I'll ask Walt to see if he can do that.
all right, thank you.
That's no problem. And as far as the e-bikes, we know they're a concern. They're a concern everywhere in town. We're not the only, we have problems in Mead itself. We have problems in Waveney. We have problems at the concerts. You know, they've been kind of brought up that and the police are aware of it, the police liaison, the downtown liaison, she's working with the youth groups as well, is to, you know, try to talk to them about it. It's been asked whether or not we put up signage. I don't necessarily think signage is going to stop them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy to put the signs up, but the sign it's an enforcement. So it's just another sign. They know that they're not, you know,
Right,
necessarily supposed to be in there. And then we are working with IT on the cameras themselves, so then we can locate the people. We have a couple already. I've got a couple on my desk that I've got to get IT and I to go out there and relocate those or locate those. And then that should help us a little bit more. Yeah, and then
What are they
we,
doing? Are they going on trails? Is that something?
oh, the bikes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're mostly on the main trail leading in, but on, say, Mead Park, I saw them where we have the stone steps. We have two sets of stone steps at Mead Park. One's over by the train tracks and one's over by the tennis courts. And they were riding up one side and then hammering down the other. So what was happening is they're actually eroding both sides of the staircases. And if you're a bike rider, I won't say it's not a cool ride. It's a cool ride, but you know, it's a lot easier on an e-bike than it is. I do it on a pedal bike, and it's nice to do it on a pedal bike, but you know, it's an easier ride on an e-bike, and you do a lot more damage on an e-bike. So that we're seeing that problem, and they're winding up, you know, making ruts in the trails and what have you, and then they're just an overall disturbance for other users, other patrons, because they are coming at speed. You know, so that's the other concern.
I had a call from a walker in the park saying they almost got run over. So
Right. So
Bristol?
it was,
yeah, so we've had several discussions with the police department there where we're trying to figure out exactly how to manage it and how to get the message out that, hey, you know,
right.
take a look. Mostly, yeah, it's just, you know, and they, you know, they're in the downtown area, they're around. So it's not just, so it's just not Bristol, it's just
Yeah,
not
the
me.
problem.
We had problems, like I said, we had concerns at the last concert where the kids were riding up and down, you know, in the concert, and a lot of people were upset at the speeds and the noise. So, but we are working on that. Yeah, it's just
I wonder if surveillance signage might help, in addition to surveillance, without necessarily calling attention to the cameras, just separately putting up.
saying
signage.
cameras are in use or.
Yeah.
video surveillance. Yeah,
Smiling at the camera.
yeah, we had looked at that prior. I'd sent you an email before. Yeah, there are other like the linear path you know, up there where I live actually has signage that says there's video surveillance,
Right.
you know, for specific reasons in areas of concern. So we can look at that as well. Just trying not to put too many signs out,
Yeah.
you know, to
Yeah.
try to eliminate the site pollution.
Its parents really need to be reached.
Right, I think that you know, in defense of the parents, I think that the kids are saying, you know, I'm gonna go out for a bike ride. Oh,
Going
okay,
to the
great,
library.
right? Yeah, I'm going for a bike ride. Don't know exactly that, you know, you're, you know, at speed and what you're doing while you're out there. They think that, you know, that their child's out there and, yeah. So our thought is that, yeah, if we can find out who they are and then go back to the parents, say, hey, you know, maybe you want to ask where they were, you know, that might help. So that's the overall goal. It's not necessarily to, you know, get a kid in trouble, but at the same time, let them know that, you know, you know, the behavior is not as cool as they think it is, I guess.
You know, it occurs to me that maybe there's an opportunity for education here around, you know, bike riding, because you're right, I'm going out for a bike ride, I'm gonna take my bike and go to the library, but adult mountain bikers know some trails are for biking, some are only for walking, and
Right.
we understand the reasons why, but maybe like a 14-year-old doesn't understand those reasons, so I don't know, just brainstorming.
Those are the thoughts, because we're having people who are riding on the sidewalks in the downtown area, which is actually not allowed by ordinance.
Right.
So, you know, in that regard, we're trying, so yeah, we are looking at an overall, a public announcement, you know, a public service announcement to say, you know,
Well, if we could
Plan
be
to-
of help, if the library.
That would be
we can
helpful.
Get this, maybe not today is not good, but
Mhm.
offline, if we want to talk about kind of getting some kind of program together precisely for the parents. The 14-year-olds aren't going to come, but if parents can kind of be clued into what is and isn't okay and why, then
no, that'd be excellent.
So just some questions for you on Bristow. The plaque for the Cam Hutchins Garden, the area needs to be replanted with deer like Monarda, we found out, and they like it a lot. Cardinal flower, they've ignored, but we've spoken with Copia. We're putting in more sedges, we're putting in more mountain mint. Gravel will go in, weeding will be done this weekend. We're purchasing through the Cam Hutchins Fund, through Land Trust, more mulch. Can we schedule for that plaque to go up in August?
It's ready to go up whenever you want. He was
I don't
just
want to do it
waiting.
now because the deer have gone in and it needs to be
Exactly. We
weeded.
talked about, you know,
Yeah.
later. So you just tell me when.
Okay,
Marco from Peter Lonnie's organization, he has the plaque, he
Okay.
has the rock.
I just want to make sure it doesn't get like, we're postponing and then it doesn't get put on until after September
No,
8th.
he's well aware that it needs to
Okay.
go on before September 8th.
Okay,
We're just waiting for the moment you say we're ready is the moment he'll put it in.
okay.
Is that
And then a
about that?
question, and I'll open up to the other commissioners. The goldfish in the pond, can
We could try
we?
to get those out. Yeah, I gotta talk to, yeah. I can talk to, I have a meeting with John Howe after this, and I'm gonna ask
Okay.
John to.
I know someone who wants them for their own, if we can do that, but there's no frogs anymore.
He's a goldfish or, you know.
Yeah, they're eating all the
Okay,
eggs.
right.
So, and we'll try to do some education on don't dump your pets into the
Right.
Bristow Pond. Because it
No,
has
that's
changed
good.
the ecosystem completely.
If, you know, I don't think we're gonna say anything if somebody wanted to go in there and net them out, but I was just gonna ask John, you know, what he's done in the past, you
Yeah,
know, in the area. But that's all, and then we can try to take care of it.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, if we could get those removed.
Yeah.
Push them down the street.
Right, well, yeah, you know,
Someone else's problem then. Any other questions regarding Jason Bristow? By the way, the pictures I sent out, the work done on the boardwalks and the upper patio, just all fixing all the graffiti, that looks fantastic.
yeah, they did a nice job.
Yeah.
You know, for a very nominal. amount.
Yeah. Oh, and one more question. The walkway next to the stream where it's so overgrown now, I don't think it's done, but can that be removed eventually, that plastic?
That will be, so that's,
Okay.
yeah, it's actually, you know, that'll be removed before.
September 8th, okay,
Yeah, because at that point in time, while the work is done, we'll pull all this, that silt fence, erosion and control fabric.
Yeah.
So we'll pull all that out.
okay,
So he'll make a sweep through the park The idea is sometime in late August.
This
make a
being
sweep
Todd
through
or
the
this
park.
being
No, that's gonna be Todd. That'll be Marco and Peter
Marco?
because
Okay,
they put it in, so they're
Right.
responsible to take
take
it
it
out.
out. Okay,
But we'll have Marco and Peter make a look and then Todd take a look through and just kind of spruce it up before the 8th.
okay, great. Any other
Yeah.
questions, Bristow?
Just, I have one question. The sidewalk coming down from Park, is that next on the slot after the,
Sidewalk coming down from Park. So you're
Park to
talking
the
from Park to the entrance. Yeah, so that's why I meant on the staging. So we worked from the park and we're gonna work towards Park Street.
okay.
So he's starting the sidewalk. The first pour of the sidewalk was today. Like right now, and then he's gonna continue from there and continue,
Beautiful.
I guess you would call that eastward to Park Street, east, north, northeast, something like that, towards Park Street. But yeah, that's the goal. Just want to be done in front of the park first and then go. Yeah.
Great. Anything else? All right, Tiger, thank you. So next we've got Chris Shipper here with Friends of Bristow to give an update on the Bristow Centennial plannings for Sunday, September 8th.
Great. Just two quick things before we start. A note of passing. I don't know if any of you are aware or remember Dick Bergman, but a longtime citizen here passed away last week down in Florida. So sad to see him go. He was like the progenitor of the Green Link concept here with Keith Simpson. So sad to see him go. Second is that tonight at 6 o'clock, the POCD subcommittee is meeting. So you're going to get your first look or hearing of the conservation side of the plan of conservation development.
Are they doing that? Sorry. Are they doing that Lapham?
I don't know where they're doing. I have a Zoom notice, so I don't know if it's at Lapham or here.
Is it public?
It should be, yeah.
Tiger, do you know if that's at Lapham, the POCD subcommittee meeting?
It's the subcommittee meeting.
I don't believe so. It's not at Lapham. It would be in Town Hall.
Okay,
But I can tell you in a moment.
While Tiger's doing that, I'm pleased to announce that we're getting very close to publishing a Songbook Heaven. This is the history of Bristow Park.
Awesome.
oh, it's a Zoom meeting, it looks like.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it might be a Zoom only meeting.
I think it's, I don't know whether it's in person or not. Anyway, Songbook Heaven is the 100-year history of Bristow Park. It's being produced for the centennial. It's also being produced as a fundraising tool. So for donations of $100, you get a copy of it. It's being run in limited edition. It's all color, full color. It's actually a combination of a little pain to all the people who made it happen originally to start the park and who maintained it. And it's a little bit like a case study of how something like this gets underway. You know, how did this group of people come together and create a bird sanctuary 100 years ago?
How do people go about ordering the book or making it?
Excuse me?
How do people go about ordering the book?
Eventually, we're not that far away from having a website up with an auction site on it, and this will be a buy it now
Right,
or donate now
right, got
toggle. The print run will be circa 500 pieces, so it'll be limited. While Tiger's here, I'd like to give a quick update on a couple of things that are coming up in the centennial, where I'd like to follow up and see if we can get some help. First off, on the 6th of September at midday is the employees and contractors celebration, Tiger.
Yep.
And so I wanted to make sure that the parks team and the DPW guys the highway team
Mhm.
are all aware that
September 6th.
we're going to invite them in. And you know, Robin, that you're chairing, that you're going to do the intro.
that's for lunch, right?
That's that lunch on the Friday, 12 noon, that you're doing the intro. Tiger's going to do you're going to do the welcome. Tiger does introductory remarks, and Keith Simpson and Bill Pollock are going to talk a little bit about the project.
For the food,
That's being covered. I'll probably go to Walter Stewart's and contract, you know, like the 10-foot hoagies cut into pieces kind of thing.
Is Friends of Bristow covering?
Yes, yes. It's a Friends of Bristow covering the food and beverages for that event. The only thing I want to make sure is that we reach out to Peter Lanny's team, Tom Gannon, Ty Tan, Joe Hussey, Greg Falacci, that those guys, all the contractors who worked on it show up as well. And of course, the conservation commissioners there. And this is sort of like a pre-party or a pre-event leading up to the bigger overall event. On Friday, 12 o'clock at the Center Pavilion. In terms of where we could use some help, and Tiger, you might have a perspective on this or what have you. We're probably going to need I'm going to guess now 100 chairs. And I think that we already talked to Ryan or Todd.
Yeah, I think you did, right?
Yeah, so it should have been for the chairs in, the land trust has been speaking to, I believe, Michelle with John Howe.
Got it. Well, we can short circuit that by asking Tiger.
Mhm.
So, well, just so I know, this was the original ask list, 100 chairs. They could be delivered on Friday and picked up on Monday. I don't know how you normally handle that.
Okay.
It would be great if you could get us 2 or 3 portable canopies.
How big?
Just the regular
size?
high street size. They don't have to be enormous enough to put a table underneath it.
Talking the 10 by 10s.
Something like that.
And these, yep.
10 by 10s.
Yeah.
If you have 2 or 3 of those, simply because one is we're going to have a cake and beverage service. So I want to put that underneath the tent. And then
Does
the other one,
the town have those?
I thought the town
Yeah,
had.
we have some.
Right.
Okay,
Easy up tents, we have several.
So-
okay.
So if we could get that, and again, it could be put up on a Friday and taken down on a Monday. I don't think that these things are going to walk out, the chairs, the things like that, but it's a Parks Department or trade-off. I understand there is a portable sound system, so that would be great if we could have that. And then the only other thing would be 3 long tables. And I don't know where we might find that. 3 long portable tables,
Look
8
at
foot,
this.
like this would be perfect or something like that.
3 8-footers.
3 8-footers. Good. So ideally, if you can do it, 3 canopies, 3 8-footers, 100 chairs, and a portable sound system.
Well, you're gonna need that for both Friday and Sunday, right?
Well, for Friday, it'd be nice if it was there for Friday so you could see the setup, but the chairs is more chairs. You won't need 100 chairs for Friday.
No, but the portable sound system.
Sound system would be helpful, although I think as a smaller group, you should be able to project that.
Mhm.
So we just talked briefly about the Friday event. Then the big main event for the celebration is at 2 o'clock on September 8th, Sunday. I just looked at the baseball schedule and it looks like only the high school has a practice on September 8th in the morning, and there are no games scheduled September 8th in the afternoon, which is good news at this point, but that may change. The schedule will include, starting at 2 p.m., for the 20 minutes before that, the Harmonia 5 Woodwind Quintet will just play welcoming music tunes. At 2 o'clock, Deanna Carlson does the welcome. At 2:03, I'll do the acknowledgements and intro to David Sibley. At 2:10, David Sibley gives a keynote address on the importance of bird habitat in the Northeast. At 2:35, the Harmonia 5 Woodwind Quintet performs 5 pieces of music composed for Bristow Park. At the end of that, there's a walk over to the Francis Grotto. The Francis statue is unveiled by Stephen Leo Carl. The unveiling, I don't know what you call it, commemoration is going to be given by Scott Hare. The madrigals will then sing Dona Nobis Pacem, and Wildlife in Crisis will release Doves and Birds. And then at 3:25, it's cake, cookies, cake, and beverages. And that marks the celebration. Pardon?
And Land Trust has the special permit and,
I believe the Land Trust has pulled the special permit. We kind of got ourselves sideways on this a little bit, I think. I always viewed this as a Conservation Commission-led town event. The Land Trust was brought in because it's arms and legs. as opposed to the sponsoring. So there's this little bit of a whose is this kind of thing. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle and I'm just pushing it forward. So.
Okay, yeah, no, I know the land trust that John Winter, I believe he's already done the special permit and has the insurance, and that the town, we can reach out to the police department again, but we don't need cert people there, but just people can use that.
Right.
The
The only thing we'll
arena
probably.
parking lot.
Right. The only thing we'll probably do is try to sequester like 8 spots right there at the Mead Park for I know there are a group of elderly donors, for instance, who would prefer to be able to pull up and walk in.
Right.
And then we'll also have people there.
Sunday.
Pardon?
That's
on the Sunday. We'll probably try to sequester them around 11 o'clock. And I think 8 spots. And then we also are going to have the backup parking at Richmond, so they could park there and walk in. And the pull-off will be ready, so you could drop some people off and then go back and park your car and then walk in. That's pretty much it. That also, ends the event. I'm very excited about David Sibley coming into town and giving a talk on birding. That should be a pretty nice high point for our story. And we may have him write the preface to the book, which would be really attractive.
And having him there will probably attract.
I think so. I think you're going to get, it's very hard to project how many people will show up. I'm most likely going to go out and ask the Beautification League or the Land Trust to include a save the date note about the centennial, and then in September, a reminder note about the event. So there's the August newsletter would have a save the date. The September newsletter would have this is coming up on the 8th.
Oh, okay, so you're reaching out to various organizations.
We're going to reach out to various organizations, which will extend a little bit of the reach. But when it comes to people coming for David Sibley,
Mhm.
chances are they're going to want to attend the library event, the 45-minute talk the day before, as opposed to go back to back.
Okay, great.
On the 7th, the library event, when is it?
The library, at 3 o'clock, I think, is the New Canaan Land Trust annual meeting, and that is followed by David Sibley's talk.
Okay. And for publicizing the event, are you going through the schools at all?
No.
I'm wondering because each school puts out a weekly newsletter and every parent in town reads it religiously and often has town events on it.
It's a great thought. Sarah Herring is helping me with social media, and I know that she was going to reach out through New Canaan Moms as a sequence.
Great.
But I was thinking if the Garden Club, the Beautification League, the Gardeners, the Land Trust, the Nature Center, everyone included a little text about we're going to celebrate. This is the beginning of conservation in New Canaan. And all these organizations come out of this in a way.
We should announce it on the 7th too.
Now,
Maybe in the introduction. I mean, for the elected, I don't see why we couldn't, if we wanted to, give a shout out.
It's possible. Of course, there can be a shout out at
Shout
that
out.
point.
And do you have a flyer that we could post in the concourse?
We're in the process of putting it
Alright.
together. In fact, the first flyers are going to be shown. I don't know if any of you are aware that Mary Poppins, Summer Theater is putting Mary Poppins on. They've asked for a bunch of flyers, Feed the Birds. So it's a little bit of a start tie-in.
I hate to interrupt and push forward, but I'm going to have to leave in about 5 minutes and we're going to lose a quorum.
Got it.
Okay, nothing to vote on. Is it okay? Is everyone okay? Do you want to just do the ARPA?
Yeah.
Since the trees update, let's skip. Do I need to make a motion? Let's just skip to ARPA, the tree update. Tiger, can you give us an update on ARPA, on the South Avenue trees or the trees in general? With the
Yes.
state, the caliber of the trees?
So I spoke to Bob Moran yesterday, tree warden, and he's going to reach out to the DOT permitting section to see, where they are on their reevaluation of the 3-inch caliper and their guidelines. And then we plan on meeting with the Beautification League and actually staking out all the trees and marking on the state what type of tree and what it is, that the state can review it and see it. And then that'll be a twofold thing. One, they'll be able to see the location, and two, we have a sightline, they have a sightline concern. Or one of their questions was about sightlines.
So they actually issued a permit.
They have to, yeah,
They have
they call
to,
it, it's an
yeah.
encroachment permit, so we're actually inside their right of way. And we'll be digging inside their right of way, so they have to give us permission, if not, they come out and shut you down.
Got it.
So as part of that, they came back originally with these revised guidelines, which said no tree can be larger than a 3-inch caliper at full maturity.
Right.
Which I don't know of any tree that makes it, but so we pushed back, and we weren't the only municipality
Yeah.
that pushed back.
Okay.
There were, from what I understand, there were others, so they said, wait a minute, let's take a look at it. They haven't gotten back to us yet. We've asked multiple times, because there's members of the Beautification League that are very interested. So they push me, I push Bob, Bob pushes them, and we continue to wait. So he's gonna push again, and our thought is to then try to preempt it a little bit, stake out the trees or the locations and tell them where they are and have them come down and look. That's a twofold thing. One, that allows us to talk to the residents again. The Beautification League has reached out to all the residents, but we talk to them again, and then the state can see the locations and see that there shouldn't be a sightline issue, or if there is, then we can adjust as well, and then try to help push this ball forward a little bit. We're just not,
Not fully in control,
because-
yeah.
yeah, Bob, there are certain trees that he feels should be planted in the fall, certain trees be planted in spring, and we'd like to do both. But if we don't get approval starting now, we're gonna miss the fall window again. As far as the funding goes, we have to expend the funds before December 2026, I believe, so
It was $300,000.
$200,000.
$100,000 for street.
100, yeah, 100 and 100 was what the projected budget
Right.
was. So 100 in the streets, specifically South Avenue, and then 100 in the parks. We're gonna start working forward on the 100 in the parks, and then try to move forward with this. So we have a little bit of time in the calendar, but not a lot of time in the calendar. Because there's a point where funds have to be allocated. And then if they're allocated and not expended, that's an issue. So they might have to be reallocated to some other project, or back to the general funds. If we can't determine that we're gonna be able to get this completed before December of 2026, because the last thing we want to do is have it allocated and then not be able to complete it and then lose the money. That would be
And the money would just go back in the general fund.
no, at that
Would
point in
not.
time, I believe that
It would just go away.
I'm not quite certain on that, but yeah, should be allocated into a fund that will be utilized. So if we can't do that if we can't be certain that we can do it by a certain time frame, we're gonna reallocate it to the town funds so that we don't lose the allocation.
Yeah, because I think there were still, even though the rest of the ARPA funds got put back in the general fund to cover costs that were lost during COVID, I think it didn't cover everything. So
Did not.
I was wondering if then they could go back in the general fund.
They can, there's
Yeah.
still room left. To that point,
Yeah.
yes, there's room left in the general fund to cover the costs that we did not recover at the time due to COVID.
Okay.
So that's
So what parks? I mean, this is more of a Parks and Rec thing, but as a conservation.
more just, we were looking at Waveney specifically. Mead and Irwin are a little, they're a little full. There might be
Yeah.
something at Irwin, but mostly at Waveney to try to then augment the ones that are along the drives. And then the Conservancy is working on a tree plan in and around the facility, around the house
Mhm.
and elsewhere. So the thought was to try to do that. And we feel that there's probably more room at Waveney to accommodate that number of trees versus the other, versus Irwin, Mead, Kiwanis.
Okay.
They're all heavily, treed. So but that's the thought right now.
All right, so I would say we don't meet in August, but in September we'll put that on the agenda again for an update.
Yes,
see what's
absolutely.
going on.
Then we can give you an update.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping by that time we have some positive movement where we've been stagnating for a while. It's really on the state side. I don't think that they're aware that we have this, this funding issue, but
Right,
so Bob's trying to push DOT permitting.
Okay, great. Okay, any questions on that? Mhm. All right, thank you.
No problem.
We said we'd push off the minutes until Stu's, yes, September. We have a quorum, but should we wait till Susan's here?
Yeah.
To vote, okay. I didn't see any changes needed, but,
I don't-
okay, so you need to leave, so we're no longer quorum, but, Earth Day update, Linda's not here. So we will do that again in September, and
Yeah,
newsletter.
Just quick thought on that.
Oh.
So Mickey and I were talking about this at the last nature and coalition meeting. And Mickey, you were on this commission back in the 90s?
It was the, like 2007, 8, 9, something like that, 2008 and 2009.
Okay, so Mickey shared that, that this commission produced a monthly newsletter, right, monthly?
I don't know if it was monthly, it was mailed out. Do you remember this, Robin or Joan? It was mailed
Yeah.
out to every household in New Canaan, and it was like an off-white publication. I seem to remember green ink with little line drawings, and it had all this great information about like the transfer station, gardening stuff, you know.
Who is the
sustainability.
budget? Because the
It was
conservation,
the Conservation Commission. It
no,
was
no,
the
but the Conservation Commission and Tiger, didn't the Conservation Commission only start having a budget like 5 years ago?
Yes, it did not have a budget.
Well, I don't know
Yeah.
how they paid for it, but there
Right.
was someone on the Conservation Commission for whom this was like their project.
Mhm.
And she knew how to do it, she produced the whole thing, and it was like really cheap. It was a 2-color, 8.5 by, fold over thing. And we saved them for years, and we just recently
Oh, no.
recycled them.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I think
thank you, John.
probably in the file here at Town Hall, I'll do what I can to find out about that and see if we can look into reviving.
You
that.
were interested in that, you said.
Yeah, well, I think, what we talked about at the last meeting was putting together a full year's worth of communication, September to September. We're not meeting in August.
Right.
So, I suppose we'll have to vote on it the 12th, which is our next meeting.
Yeah,
But I think this is an interesting idea to possibly revive, because there's so many people that you can't reach through. I'm not sure how many people subscribe to the town newsletter, the selectmen's newsletter. But if you have a multi-pronged effort to communicate, love to include that in our this idea, providing this idea. So I think we put this on the shelf until September 12th.
okay, yep, so we'll discuss in September.
Yeah,
when we
and I'll see what
form.
I can learn.
And then, okay, so I would say then we are ready to adjourn, and we can't adjourn with a quorum, but I guess we're gonna have to, or else we can't go home. Okay, thank you, everyone, for coming to the Conservation Commission meeting. And as I said, the minutes from our June meeting, we will vote on in September, when we have a quorum, and we currently have no meeting. I guess I make the motion to adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
I think John would approve. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Greg, I love that meeting.